Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Happy Friday everybody, TGIF. It's a nice day out here, starting to warm up slowly but surely after some really cold days for this side of town over the last couple of weeks, but we're creeping back up into the good 70s, 80s next week. I think it's gonna be as hot as 87 some point in time soon, so we're getting back up there for a little while, then it'll be raining again within the next 10 days likely. That's how it usually is over here in March. If what I saw last year is any indication, this is get a little hot, rain for 2-3 days, ramp back up, rain for 2-3 days, and then the cycle just goes on till about the end of April, May-ish type thing. So yeah, man, we enjoying that right now. The nice weather and, you know, getting out. Not really sure where I'm headed today, but I'm doing the whole thing where I walk and talk and see what comes out of my mouth. I've been really ramped up over the last couple of days about various different conversations about Gaza, about, you know, just how people are getting locked up and stuff like that, just like everybody else is talking about on the internet, and just putting my twist on it. And you know, I've been asking the Lord if I've been doing anything he don't appreciate, and the energy that came my way is no. No, and no, not as it pertains to me praying, and then from there speaking is more or less the energy is just continue to speak from the heart, man. It's gonna do what it has to do. And a lot of times I'll misspeak, man. I say this, misspeaking in the sense that I literally use the wrong word. I'll use a word that sounds like the word I'm looking for, and it's like, damn it, this is not what I'm trying to say. But I'll be speaking so fast without a script. None of this is preconceived. And so I find myself frustrated when I listen back to it, be like, yo, that ain't what you were trying to say, but you understand the word. Or that ain't how you wanted to phrase it. That's not proper English. People aren't gonna understand you. But what I'm curious to see or to know is if someone were to translate some of my misspeakings into other languages, does it change the meaning entirely of what I'm saying? Could I stumble into it making even more sense in different languages? Because when I translate different languages sometimes, the way that some of the literal terms to the other language is when it's translated to us is misspeakings. It changes the word around. It swaps words in ways that don't necessarily belong when things are translated from other languages to English. So if I speak accidentally, could it potentially translate to what it's actually supposed to mean even more so and make it more sense in other languages? I doubt it, but it is something that crossed my mind. I figured I'd just say that. But yeah, man, what's been going on over since the last time I talked to you guys? Watched that Laker game. We lost, of course, but we expected to. Our team wasn't no good without all our players. We know that. We were using our third string guys, running out there against Giannis and all those Bucks and stuff. So we got beat pretty bad. Nothing special. What I can say is I overslept this morning. Definitely did that. I didn't get out of bed till like 10:15, which is something I don't think I've done on this side of town at all. And granted, the hour change makes it so that my body I'm still not used to that hour change. So that was more like 9:15 if the hours were what they were 2 weeks ago. But still, it's like it's not how I operate. I went to sleep probably about 11:30 last night. Woke up again, didn't check the time to see what time I woke up, but the sun had already started to begun. So I guessed it was probably like 8 o'clock I woke up. Rolled over and went back to sleep and woke up again at like 10:15. And felt like I could have kept sleeping, man. My body's exhausted from all these deep push-ups that I've been doing. I was telling y'all that I switch up my push-up regimen a little bit to make it so that I have proper form. And so I've gotten myself up to what? I think 26. Started at 20, I've worked my way up to 26, but it's been a lot of soreness trying to, you know, just get the body used to doing things correctly in that way, and other exercise I did and stuff like that. I guess my body's just a little tired, I don't know, but I don't think I've done too much. Walking home yesterday, I ain't really did too much. I did my hundreds when I got home as usual, while listening back to everything I had made during the day as usual, but it just felt like I was a little more sleepy, a little more physically exhausted than I usually am just waking up this morning. But I'm out here right now. I ain't tripping. I ain't it didn't keep me from doing my normal routine. So, and I'll just keep at it without any concern, really. But yeah, man, of course I told you guys my doctor's appointment is finally set for June 11th. It's as soon as I could get it. So, you know, we ain't nowhere near that. This is mid-March right now. So hopefully everything goes well between now and then, and I can make sure I'm there on time and then get everything done, find out what's been going on in my body for the last, shoot, a couple of years since I've been having some of the issues that I'm going to be telling them about. So yeah, man, it just is what it is. I've been good now, though. I ain't had no issues lately since I got them potatoes out of my system. Not really nothing to really cry home about as pertains to problems, but you know, just continuing to work on taking care of myself, trying to continue to eat as well as possible. Just continue to work on my fitness and get the exercise where I can, be as consistent as I can, keep my stress level down, which is important in my situation. And you know, thanking God for the life that He's given me. You know, a lot of people are struggling through things that, you know, I've been afforded an opportunity to not have to think about because of the grace of my family helping me and stuff like that. I feel like the best thing for me to do is try to pay that forward, and using my voice for things that people are afraid to speak on, and maybe some things that people just don't care to speak on, too selfish to speak on. That's how I pay back the Lord for the grace that's been given me to be able to have a couple of dollars without actually working during this era of my life. So I think that's the best way to do it, man. It's for me, it's just using my voice, continue working on what the Lord put in my heart to be passionate about. Do the Laker thing, be as consistent with it, stay clean, not deal with no weed, you know, or nothing like that, not drink anything ever, although I don't find myself tempted to. And just talk to the Lord, man. Talk to Him, continue to stay updated, continue to keep my faith in practice. And so that's what it is, man. I was listening to some content this morning, and these guys were talking about one of the dudes that just got arrested and how they believe he has an opioid, I think that's the word, opioid problem, drug problem, and how, you know, potentially he's going to be going through some serious withdrawals in jail. Now, somebody had put in the comment section that there are certain places in the country where you can get medication for those type of problems in jail. You can get your withdrawal medication if you have certain criteria met, or if you have a certain insurance and are able to pay for it. They will make sure you get your medication in jail so that you don't go through excruciating withdrawals. And that's something that's been implemented in certain places around the country. I don't know if that is where this person is locked up at, but you know, this is just one more reason to say, you know, if something is bad for the body, it's probably best not to be placed in the body on purpose. And so all of us can be clear on, you know, the simplicity and the obviousness of such a take. We should not put anything in our body that's going to ultimately make our body worse for not having it. You feel me? I know a lot of people trying to deal with their struggles. Some people are dealing with PTSD and mental health issues, a combination of a bunch of stuff, whatever it is, man. But at the end of the day, if you're going to have something to where if you don't have it, you go through excruciating pain and agony and suffering, then you probably shouldn't want to bring it to you in the first place. You should be trying to steer clear of that, just like you would any other thing that causes excruciating pain and agony and torture. So I just think in the world where we're influenced so much by demonic energy and people romanticize demonic behaviors as if they don't yield excruciating results, I think it really comes down to us being able to think for ourselves and having some understanding that a lot of these things are in place because of the hatred pointed at humanity by the enemy. It wants us to romanticize our own suffering, to welcome in things that are meant to destroy us, meant to make us suffer, meant to make us go through excruciating pain, and meant to make us break the hearts of our loved ones as we destroy ourselves. It's not meant for us to enjoy. It's painted that way It's dressed up that way, but it ain't for no other reason than to make us want it, so that we will endure the suffering that ultimately it provides. And if people just understood that a lot of stuff is done and invested in because people want to laugh at your torture as you welcome it into your life, when you understand that you're being attacked and furthermore being made fun of in the process of that, then you understand the root of why certain cultures are in place, and furthermore why you should shun those cultures and be offended by them instead of what it is that we do, which is welcoming them and enjoying them. People are playing in your face. They're playing with your intelligence, and that's what people need to understand. Like, you are being made fun of while you welcome things into your life that are meant to destroy you. They're making money off of these things, and they point and laugh at your stupidity for not being able to see them hiding behind the shadows as they continue to invest in your deterioration as you welcome it into your life. And this is what I don't think a lot of people are even aware of in our cultures, inner city cultures, black and brown cultures. A lot of us, I guess we're rocked to sleep somehow by the notion that a lot of this is just the way it either supposed to be, or there ain't no other way, or because everybody around us does this and we're so influenced by others and susceptible to the cultures that are placed in our lives for programming, and see no hope outside of our circumference of what it is that we agree to, that we don't understand nor have even the slightest idea that this concept that I just illustrated is in place. People want to see you suffer on purpose. They want to see you in disgrace. They want to see you in a space from which you can't help but hurt you. And then from there, they continue to eat away at your numbers, and then furthermore make satire off of your stupidity and self-deterioration. And then from there, when the most collective, the majority or a good portion of you are in that state of mind, you make certain decisions against the laws that they've set up, and then furthermore they wrap you all up and put you in jail. Choices that you only gonna make because you're inebriated consistently off of things that are ultimately put in place that you're drawn to and now addicted to from there. You make decisions in those mindsets that ultimately furthermore harm you and haunt you in your future. I don't think a lot of that is given enough credence. A lot of y'all on drugs, and then from there y'all start doing stuff that you would never do if not for the presence of those circumstances in place meant to harm you. You would never do these things if it wasn't for these drugs that you was on. You would never welcome such recklessness into your life and put at risk your opportunity to spend time with your children and spend time doing what it is you love to do free, if not for the presence of that for which they put in your communities for you to destroy your mind with. Having you paranoid to the point where you need to do this, 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 and this. You would never do that if your mind was clear. You would be more concerned about what happens when you make certain decisions to ever put yourself in a space to be so reckless. Some of these drugs, I would imagine, are genetically engineered to make you drop your defenses and pick up irrational paranoia. Drop your actual defenses and then start fearing things that ain't actually coming. That's what some of these drugs are probably genetically engineered to do. So instead of being concerned about them putting you away for having massive amounts of ammo and guns, you in your high stupor is buying all the ammos and guns knowing that you already got a felony. But you're more so concerned about not having enough guns to kill 1,000 people of whom are not coming after you at all. You see what I'm saying? But because you got this pill problem, it has your mind paranoid, not about what's actually needing to be protected against, but against this fantasy world where you freaking Rambo. It's like that's the type, like this is what it happens to a lot of these people, man. Type of stuff. Just using this as an example, this is what ends up happening to them. And now they put you in jail for 20 years or something like that, just for having possession of ammunition that you probably was never actually going to use. You was probably never going to actually even need any of that. But you did need to stay free. And in your clear mind, you knew damn well that they was going to lock you up for having guns, but you kept buying guns as if they weren't watching you and locking you up. They're going to lock you up. You're more likely to be caught for the guns than you are to need the guns that you bought. Just using this scenario as an example. But this is what happens when you are offered a pill so hard and you've done so much goofy stuff to make people mad at you, to now you may have a threat level that's 10 and you treating it like it's a threat level that's 1,000. Because you can't measure properly what the real problem is. The problem is you need to stay free to raise your kids. And what's keeping you from being in the right mind for that is them damn opioids that you can't seem to get off of. That if they lock you up, you're going to likely have to have withdrawals in regards to. You don't want to deal with that. That's pain for you. That's time away from your family. That's time away from your passions. And look, if they lock you up, which they're likely going to do if you're measuring things properly, then you're going to go through the process of having to go through those withdrawals inevitably. Wouldn't it make more sense to get yourself off them damn drugs so that in the event something like this happens, you ain't going through excruciating pain? This is what the drugs ultimately psych you out of actually choosing. Choices that would otherwise get you off the drugs for the betterment of your own physical health and well-being. And talking about you got a problem, you're feeling your mental health or whatever, you done went through something, you've seen something, and now you got to self-medicate. Well, if this is what comes of it, are you really helping yourself? Are you really helping your mentality? Or you prefer to putting yourself through even more trauma? Let me see, if the environment around you was speaking to you like this, if everywhere you look people were saying this, it wouldn't be as cool to self-medicate. You would actually be bombarded with the reality of the consequences of doing so. But the environment itself and what's invested in regards to what you see and hear all around you is telling you, yeah, this is what's going to help you. Yeah, this is what's around you. Yeah, this is what everybody else doing. This is good for you. This ain't good for you. This is going to hurt you. It's going to pull you away from your family. It's going to have you doing stuff that measures out your threat level the wrong way. Have you thinking something that is a problem isn't a problem, and have you thinking things that aren't a problem are the greatest issues. Only to force yourself into the hell that comes with that. It's not helping. Just because a bunch of people have been able to effectively show you whatever they showed you, which is likely not good if you saw them off the drugs that a lot of these people own. I don't know what is making these people influenced to think that this is behavior they should want. It's just the devil's web on a lot of people's lives. It just speaks to the way that it works when you don't have your relationship with God right. You can be susceptible to the darkness that comes with coercing yourself into destruction. Willingly. Having no fear for that destruction. Stupidly. This is why a relationship with God is so important. Because it can help you through the fog of all of this misdirection and nonsense in poor culture. As much time as we spend trying to find ways to self-medicate so that we can heal ourselves, if we turn ourselves inward and try to do so by dealing with our problems without the presence of opioids, but with the presence of meditation and prayer, what comes with that is an inner strength that allows you to ward off a lot of what is coming at you in regards to culture and influence, and listening to people who are showing you poor results of what it is that they're doing and still finding yourself drawn to it any damn way. There comes a willingness to be evil in some variation of form that allow you to be woke up in the devil's intentions to misdirect and misinform, and then furthermore influence you into your own destruction. It requires first a relationship with the enemy and the world, which is evil in and of itself, for you to be caught up in that fog, and then furthermore psych yourself into thinking you can see, psych yourself into thinking that you have a compass in that fog without the presence of something good to guide you away from that for which is meant to destroy you. You need that relationship first. Then can you make sound decisions away from stuff that is seemingly so obvious to the rest of us. Like you probably shouldn't do crack because every crackhead we've ever seen has struggled deeply with that. That you probably shouldn't be on opioids because everybody who's ever been on them has had deep problems with that. You've seen a million people in one way or another with these same problems, but yet you're drawn to it. Tell me why you're drawn to it if not for something spiritual that would otherwise coerce you into spaces of your own destruction. We can say that it's our trauma. Hey man, I'm not in your trauma. I don't know. But from where I'm standing, there are better ways to handle your trauma than to ask the devil for a helping hand, than to destroy yourself and further coerce yourself into more trauma. I would imagine it would be a better way than that. People who are raised around people who ain't done nothing but struggle with these things. The first thing they want to do is buy these things and sell these things. Like, it becomes a question of why are we not helping one another out of devilish confusion? Devilish confusion. Hidden in plain sight. And so many different layers and variations of this same thing go on in this Western world, man. Food, different practices that mean us no good. And I ask myself, why is all the music meant to make us worse human beings? Honestly. Shallow human beings, disloyal human beings, murderous human beings, drugged up human beings. Why is all the music that's pointed at our people meant to glorify the things that destroy us and our reputations and ultimately present us to be awful human beings? Why is all the music teaching us to be horrible people? You can turn on the radio right now, and for as long as I've been alive, and you're gonna find 90% of the music is coercing us into being one form or another of bad. It's always been that way. And you have to ask, who has been investing in these messages that are pointed at our people? Trying to coerce us into being evil. And why is that message so consistent and embedding itself in our brains? Well, we know that if we follow the energy behind these concepts that they put in these musics, they're going to lead us to pain, shame, jail, the grave. If we follow any sort of religion that is attached to a living God, it's pointed at making him angry at you and ultimately welcoming his wrath, doing things that he tells you not to do consistently in his books of praise. Why is all the music trying to teach us how to be enemies of God? Now, any of us who are influenced by this music even once questioning why all the music is telling us how to be bad people? Consistently telling us how to be disloyal to our loved ones, the people in our lives, how to cheat on them, how to objectify people, drugs and how to find them, how to sell them, how to take them, concepts that are going to ultimately leave us vulnerable to sexually transmitted diseases of many kinds, concepts that make us paranoid about the people around us, and furthermore make us want to be violent, influence us to be violent, or to fear violence, or to welcome hatred, or welcome jealousy, or think that jealousy is the only energy that's out there for us. And furthermore, we need to bring forth more to ourselves to welcome more of it. Why is that the message in so much of the music? Chants that essentially make us worse, that we ultimately continue to repeat over and over again. Promoting the concept of conflict and violence, furthermore, drug-induced mindsets that are influenced by this violence. First you take the drug, then you have a problem. Then you go somewhere, and then you mess with somebody else's girl. And if you want a problem, then you pick up a gun. All of these concepts, one way or another, make you look horrible. All of these concepts, one way or another, make you look horrible. Gonna have you in trouble with the law. Have people looking at you like you disloyal. Have people looking at you like they gotta shoot at you instead of trying to swing at you because you're likely gonna shoot at them. Having people think they need to stay away from you because you're likely gonna steal from them. Why are we promoted how to be enemies to our own legacy and to God through the music? And why is nobody asking this question in a space from which to hold accountable those who are investing in this message? You know, we're so warped by the devilish confusion of influence and needing to belong that we'll hover around concepts that have us chanting our own destruction and destruction of the people that look just like us for reasons that we don't even ask enough questions in regards to. I don't know why, but I'm going along with it. I don't know what it is that ultimately drives somebody to want to pay somebody that looks like me $1 million to tell the world that we're awful human beings, and to furthermore reinforce into our heads that we're awful human beings. But I certainly liked it. Let's listen to more of this. I was raised by this. And as I try to get closer to God and try to get closer to how to represent myself well, how to stand up against evil in the world, or how to feel confident in the presence of circumstances that are whatever the hell they may be, that are not confident for me, then suddenly I started looking at all these concepts that have been embedded in my head. Why did I like smoking weed so much? Because I used to listen to music glorifying it all the time as a child. Tried it as a child and got hooked on it as a child. If I was taught how not to be a weed smoker and how to stay away from things that clouded my judgment in my mind, then I would have looked at that as if it was something bad, because I would have been influenced one way or another. So if I would have been influenced to love myself, to love my peace of mind, to get closer to God in the same ways that they glorified all these different evil concepts, I would have floated toward those positive concepts too. Because I was just looking to be influenced by the music. I was just looking to be influenced by somebody cool. If you had those same people who were cool telling me how to hurt myself, telling me how to love myself, I would have been very much intentional on loving myself and others. Them same beats that they used to teach me how to feel however negative way, and how to react however negative way, and how to have a scope and a lens that ultimately reflected what was poor in the world. Maybe I wouldn't have had a view on life that I did. Maybe I could have had a different view on everything. And so too my community. Chanting things that ultimately were taught that were no good. Continuing to reinforce negative energies that ultimately bring about the worst of consequences. As if they're cool. As if they bring about something fruitful. And when you look at it clear as day, what they've romanticized is our own destruction. What they've made culture is the deterioration of our people. Deterioration of our minds, deterioration of our character, which equates in the world a deterioration to our leverage. And people don't have to take us seriously because of this. To mentally keep us at a distance from our greatest potential, so that we wouldn't even come close to fighting back against that for which is against us. So that we wouldn't even try to come for what it is that we're owed, because we're too busy influenced by what it is that makes us cold and makes us worse. And then fighting the consequences of that thereafter, which inevitably come with doing things that are no good. This is how they kept us from fighting back. They snuffed out anybody that would otherwise put in our face that this has happened to us and that we should fight back. And then furthermore, reinforce nothing but negative cultures, invested with all the money that they would put into the music, nothing but negative chants for us to reinforce in our minds, having our thoughts, and then embed in our fabric of who it is that we are. They were screwing us over. And we were not wise enough to understand that. They were teaching us how to be docile in their presence and weaponize ourselves against one another. They were behind it. They raised us to be fearful of us, to do the wrong things that ultimately make us worse in character, and to never look at them in any other way than people far away. This is why, it's exactly why I come at white supremacy the way that I do on my channel. That I try my very best to normalize holding them accountable, and furthermore pointing it out for all the evil that they've invested in that has influenced us to be worse from what it is that they control. Because at the end of the day, you will always find somebody from that community invested in somebody who would influence our community to be worse. And the first thing we say, because we've been trained to say that, is we need to change our ways. But you've been having things in your head that would otherwise influence you to do the worst things possible. You've been chanting these things, and your brother's been chanting these things, and your sister's been chanting these things for 50 years. And the power of suggestion and the culture of the mind and the language of the mind reinforces not only the truth in your head as you would see it to be, but also the culture from what it is that you would engage in with your brothers and your enemies. It has pushed you into a space where you've turned your attention inward for purposes of destruction instead of outwards for purposes of redemption and redeeming rather what has been taken from you. Redeeming rather what has been placed upon you on a systematic and highly calculated attack against you and your people. And then they empower the police to view you as evil as they've trained you to be, and furthermore treat you as awful as they would something that they've created to be monsters. So when they look to clean up the street, what are they cleaning up? The monsters they created, the Frankensteins they've created in these communities, depraving them of things that ultimately improve their lives, and inserting in them the influence, heavily invested influence and mental training that music provides that would ultimately make them depraved and docile to the presence of that energy being placed upon their heads deliberately by those that wanted to not only destroy them, but before doing so, control them and smear them out to be the worst people in the world. And that you believe you're the worst people in the world willingly makes it true. But why you're this way, it's not because it's inherently in you, but because it was placed upon your heads through the influence of many different things coming at you from many different directions. And they made it true. They willed it true. And if they would have did it to their own people, they would behave just like you. And that is exactly why I come in white supremacy the way that I do. There will be no mercy for that type of energy. Why? Because it has done everything it can to make us hate ourselves, harm ourselves, and then furthermore, never hold it accountable for that energy. This is the truth. An actual truth with evidence attached to it. And we're supposed to be just oblivious to it. Because, damn it, it's our fault. We did this. We made the music. Ain't nobody make us rich. You got to put it on airwaves controlled by people that are not us in order for it to even reach the masses. We don't control where this stuff goes. And furthermore, if you put it there, and there, then it's influenced around us. So now we're influenced by it. We're raised by it. So, of course, we're going to naturally, organically come out with it. Because that's the only thing that's ever taught any of us any damn thing. And in the presence of chaos creators, drugs, alcohol. Of course, those things are going to organically provide conflict if placing enough people in its surrounding. That person drunk, that person drunk, that person drunk, that person hurt because somebody's drunk, did something they shouldn't have did. That person left his family, so that dude was raised poorly, and he's drunk, and he's high. That one's high, that one's high, that one's done with violence. That one had violence come their way. This person was ultimately influenced by violence. That person was influenced by sex, drugs, and violence. That person, like, of course, that's your environment, so of course you're going to organically adapt to it, be influenced by it, be stricken by it. It's going to raise you and the people who you're influenced by around you. And you're going to raise one another because the men in your family are in jail who are also raised by this nonsense. It's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm, that's what I'm telling you. You got to give them credit, man, through the presence of the evil in their hearts and the intellect that has provided them through the gifts that they've been given. They knew exactly how to control people's minds. They knew exactly what we needed. They knew we were influenced by the drum and the 808 beat. They knew we were going to be influenced by different cadences and things like that. If they put the worst energy or invest in the worst human beings who were influenced by the worst cultures, affected by the worst human beings, if they place that upon our skulls from multiple different places, repeatedly for generations, they can effectively influence us to be as evil as they painted us out to be. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Who knows? Who cares? There's too much of this coming from everywhere. It just is what it is. They're awful human beings. They're thugs, they're hooligans, they this, they that. But where's the contracts pointed at the influencers coming from? Those who were first given the wealth that we were influenced by, attached to the concepts that we ultimately have been bombarded with, that make us hate ourselves and have poor character and be less trustworthy and react to our poverty in such violent and disgusting ways. Who was putting that money into the first seeds planted? Because we didn't control the airwaves that ultimately reached us. We didn't control the bombardment. We weren't investing in the bombardment of this message coming our way. Who put that in their heads? Where does this trace back to? Who was signing them damn contracts? Who was giving out the contracts to sign, rather? Who owns these damn liquor stores? Where do these opioids trace back to? Why weren't they arresting people and putting people away for the initial bombardment of the crack epidemic in our lives? And you start understanding that white supremacy has been looking to make you what they wanted you to be, and then furthermore reinforce the truth of what it is they've created into you, black community. So when people look at you and say you're the worst person in the world, or they look at you and say you're untrustworthy, you do understand that you've been raised to be that. And a very, very intricate and invested in system from which it's supposed to influence generations into being whatever they chose it to be. And when you look at the music, and you look at the influence and what did they invest in regards to black people, it's always something that's going to teach black people how to be worse people and teach other people how black people are the worst people. And it's been that way for a long time, man. Very long time. And at this point, it's so enriched in the fabric of who we are and our cultures that we don't know what up is up and down is down. We don't even know. We see things so backwards. We're so used to being influenced by evil culture that we don't even know that it's evil. We're so used to destroying ourselves that we don't even know that we're destroying ourselves, and yet the evidence is so far in our faces we can't even avoid it. But the detachment between not facing being faced with those consequences in your life and avoiding it, it seems to be blurred. It's almost like you can't see the correlation between going towards something and then from there having the worst of it come your way. Like reach and touch is just blurred in this situation. It's like we don't see that. If you reach for it, you're going to touch it. If it's hot and you touch it, it's going to burn you. It's like that relationship. When it comes to these concepts in our community, it's blurred. You want these things, but they're bad for you. You see that it's bad for others as they take it, but you want it anyway. You see what I'm saying? It's like, no, but we hate suffering, right? We don't like suffering. Suffering hurts, and hurt is something to not want. Apparently not. As it pertains to these concepts, hurt is to something to want. We don't like when people are not trustworthy. We hate when we can't trust the people around us. But they're teaching us how to lie, how to cheat, how to steal. And so we go toward those concepts, confused as to how those concepts are not good for us, and yet we don't like those concepts just the same when they're around us. See how much of this crap is reinforced as a web to bring forth a certain devilish confusion that aligns us with spinning in circles, doing the wrong things, wanting things that'll be better for us, but not welcoming the right things to do that, to see those consequences. Can we not see that? And how that's been heavily invested in by people who apparently are freaking chosen by God to do whatever they want. And this is what they want. This is what they've wanted. That's what I'm saying. Like, man, I'm not of a mindset that doubts that the world is evil. And I know that in my lifetime, I will not see this world change from evil to good. But one of the functionalities of my existence in my brain is to point out how this has been in place so that it is evil. The devil's got us all confused in a lot of different ways, is to say this is an evil place and there's no hope for changing it around. But the reality is he has his tentacles and his processes in working in unison from different directions, multiple dimensions of directions that ultimately make this place what it is. And if we start to understand what it is that makes it what it is, we can have a much better defense against that for which just sheepishly falls into our laps and meant to destroy us. We got to start understanding how these things have worked in conjunction, in unison with one another, to ultimately influence us toward the consequences that are not good for our lives. Music that has taught us how to chant the worst of things, and then from there we have the worst of character taught to us by generations at a time of people who've been taught and influenced in cloudy mindsets that have often been drugged and alcoholed and devastated by trauma, coming together to influence us from different directions to be our worst, and to welcome that willingly into our lives, and to teach our kids that there's no other way but to be this way, and furthermore romanticize the worst of things and provide the worst of consequences. This is something that we need to deeply, deeply start to understand so that we can undo the madness in our communities that plague us to be the worst of people, and then furthermore that we reinforce it. as true with our actions. We got to start shunning these cultures that are meant to destroy our character. Start holding people accountable who invest in the destruction of our character and the belittling of our value in this world. Who teach our little girls that it's okay to be promiscuous, but then furthermore will shun that in their own communities. Where is the Jewish sexy red? Where is the Jewish little Kim? You ain't gonna see her because they don't respect that energy in themselves, but they're sure as hell invested in your community. That's black people culture. No, that's evil people's intentions upon culture. And they're deliberately influencing that so that you wouldn't be able to be competitive in the world with their daughters. But you're too busy shaking your ass and making yourself look like something they do not respect on their dime. They invest in that, and they definitely don't respect it. And that's exactly what they want to see in you. Because if you start valuing yourself and you start engaging in the energy that they engage in and within themselves, then suddenly you start to close the gap mentally. And then you start doing things the right way and start gaining what it is that's out there for you to receive. They got to have your mind first set on not even wanting the right things. Welcoming your destruction instead of that for which balances out your value in this life. And as individuals, as long as you continue to choose these destructive cultures and be influenced by these destructive cultures, you ain't gonna never come taking from them what it is that they've ultimately taken from you. Anybody that says what I have to say is a black supremacist or some type of terrorist sympathizer, anybody that tries to bring about held accountability for them is ultimately a problem and suddenly shunned by the culture of the life around us to where I'm not holding myself accountable and look at what's going on in my community. What am I going to do about it? And all these different things. This is what we do about it. We look to the root of it. We look at the root of it. I'm not going around snipping the leaves if my tree is rotten. I'm going to the damn roots. Where the roots at? The root of a lot of these problems in our black community, if not all of them, to their root, it's white supremacy's intention upon us. It's Zionist supremacy's intention upon us. That's what you're going to find when you try to get to the root of a lot of these problems, or all of them, for that matter. And the first thing a person want to tell you is that you're not holding yourself accountable. That's a cop-out. Even people in your own community don't know shit about nothing, gonna tell you it's a cop-out. But have they dug to the root of the issue? Do they see the devil hidden in plain sight? Do they know who was investing in the contracts that planted the first seeds for which this rotten tree is now in place? Somebody planted the seeds. Who the hell planted them? We go through inner wars and inner struggles to try to coerce ourselves into being influenced by positive things. Why do you think that is? Because we're just inherently stupid and we can't seem to figure out that something good is something to want? No. It's because they've done a number on your brain. For generations at a time, you were raised with that number on your brain. That's why you struggle with making any sense and being influenced by good energy. That's why you think it's corny to be good and positive. Even though positivity yields results that ultimately make it so that you can survive in others, you want to rush toward being the coolest, which is obviously something that equates to being the worst. Why? What's the roots of that tree? You want to snip at the leaves, that's fine. What's the root though? Why is that? Why is that? And what you're going to find is others. That's what you're going to find. And you ain't going to find your people. You're going to find your people influenced by the idea of being wealthy while promoting these ideas and promoting these images, but ultimately with somebody else saying, yo, this is what we're giving you. Now you take that back to your people and you influence them with this, and we'll make sure you're wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. Who were they? That's the question I have for all of us. Who are they? Why are they so invested in us, influencing us? What was the purpose of them controlling us in such a way to make us struggle with the idea of welcoming positivity into our lives and welcoming things that reflect positively upon our last names into our lives? Why is it that they want us to be chanting the worst of things that ultimately they would shun within their own daughters? Who are they? And are we aware they're there? Or is this just a concept that I made up? Because we couldn't possibly be influenced by anything else, because of course our ego would tell us that we're the first. We the ones, we, why, us. No, you are a victim. You slaves that got away. And they got to find a way to keep your ass in line so you don't come and attacking them like Nat Turner. And this is how they figured out how to do that, while still making much money off your backside, since you getting free costs them a lot of money. And furthermore, they learned from people like John Brown to where you had better paint the picture early in all of those of them who would otherwise be sympathetic to us, to stay away from otherwise us, because we're awful as they've proven us to be through how they've raised us to be through the things that they control. So you have less John Browns and more people who ultimately aligned with them out of sheer fear and understanding that this is, without actually finding out why it is, and then furthermore why it should not be going forward, as we continue to suffer the ills of these circumstances and these cultures that hate us so very much. We're going to tell the truth about all of that. We're going to have people going down rabbit holes that they need to go down so that they can be more John Browns. Maybe less Nat Turners, because I don't agree with some of them practices, but more so resistance to that for which is meant to destroy not only us, but others in the same way or worse, since they've evolved through what it is we've allowed. Now they can do what they're doing in Israel, Palestine. If we would have nipped that shit in the bud like we were supposed to, they wouldn't feel as brazen to do this, because they know they'd have full resistance from the John Browns, from the Malcolm X's, and from all different types of people with different ideas about how best to stop them from doing so. Instead of so much support for the understanding that we know better than what we are, and we can continue to reinvest in people that are going to continue to furthermore influence us down the same rabbit hole of horror and welcomed torture into our lives. Bdf 44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.